evaluation form. We've got one last session here to enjoy and fill out the evaluation form on that. You can drop those off at the registration desk. After this next session will be the refreshments in the social hour back in the exhibit area where you eat lunch and enjoyed a lot of time. You're not going to be hearing from that little squeaky horn again. You're welcome to just stay out there as long as you want and enjoy the afternoon, socializing and networking and getting some real business done. But now it's really my pleasure to introduce sort of an item. When we were putting all this stuff together, we were talking to a group of folks who were brainstorming what topics we should have, who the speakers should be, and Sarah talking to them said, hey, if this is a topic, you've got to have things there. If you're going to be talking about innovative materials or sustainable building materials, and we decided to save the best for last, in a sense, to get you guys to stick around. So here he is. He's going to talk about the 7 building materials that could change the world and why. I'm sure you're wondering all of that why. Let me tell you just a little bit about planning. A lot of you know a lot about planning, but I'm going to read his bio. Actually, this is from Wikipedia. Lenny Fisk III is a co-founder and co-director of the Center for Maximum Potential Building Systems, which is a sustainable design and planning nonprofit established in 1975. Before most of us were born, I think, probably. He also serves as a fellow in the Sustainable Urbanism and fellow in the Health Systems Design at Texas A&M. There he holds a joint position as signature faculty in architecture, landscape architecture, and planning. He's previously held positions at Ball State University, the University of Texas at Austin, Mississippi State University, University of Oklahoma, and the University of Houston. He's guided students through the solar decathlon several times, some of which were all of which are very impressive, I guess you could say. And one of which you can see this place at the center. 2. Oh, 2 of them are out there. Yeah. Okay. You gotta make sure you know. Go and as you've noticed, Lenny does not travel light. He's got a lot to say and a lot to show. So thank you. Let's turn it over to you. Thank you.
Is that working? Oh my goodness. So I have to say one thing. I've never been at a conference quite as incestuous as this one. You can't figure out who's family, who's stranger, who's student, who's an old employee, how this whole bloody program started way back when. My dear wife, Gail Vittori, has worked so much with that guy, Woody. It's unbelievable. They should be, I was wondering, where did she go? She's with Woody. So we do a lot of different things, and that particular situation was a lot of work with the Solid Waste Commission and on for many years. So, great to be here. This is absolutely my favorite topic, favorite town, favorite group. So I don't know whether you're in more trouble or I'm in more trouble because I could go on for a long time. I always bring this heavy stuff with me wherever I go because I try to actually say, we build with these things. This is not just an intellectual something or other. And we try things that usually people don't try because we are trying to be cutting edge for a nonprofit organization. It's our job to work with things that have a lot of possibilities, a lot of maximum potential, as we call it. So we are now the oldest in the country, and that means that we are 42 years plus old, and that also means that the original lab, believe it or not, you'll see it in a moment, was sitting 600 feet from where I stand. And it was called the Laboratory for Maximum Potential Building Systems. And it got enough of a reputation before we left the university that we actually changed one word, laboratory to center. So UT got us going way, way back. And And I'm assuming right is forward. Cool. So what I'm going to do is give you an outline, but as I say in those parentheses, the following will be presented in a nonlinear format, as you might expect if you've ever heard one of my presentations. So that means we're going to go cycling back and forth many times. And since the topic is this great topic about a cyclical economy, I realized as I went through this presentation this morning, I thought, wow, you know, I have about 25 to 30 totally different ways of thinking about cycles. And I'm going to share probably too many of these with you, but we think that the cycle way of thinking is the future. So I'm going to start off with what is the center? Somebody doesn't know. And go through a number of things that I'm actually going to talk deeper about, but to actually show buildings that we've done that incorporate these things. I changed a word in the title compared to what you have. I put the word systems in. Systems is very, very important because it puts context on whatever you're doing. And so it was sort of interesting in my talk 2 weeks ago with the city. I talked about Adobe versus Caliche. And I said, you know, Adobe is basically sandy loam. Sandy loam is agricultural soil. And then I sort of hinted at the fact that, what was it, Easter Island? And several people were sort of wondering, you know, as you look around and we're getting more and more trouble, Eastern Island. I wonder why we're taking all the vegetation away. And so here we are taking our agricultural soil and building with it. So even though I have a lot of friends in that field, I will warn people that that is on a worldwide level big problem. And I even presented this in Oaxaca, Mexico, and boy, did I get in trouble. So the other thing is, you know, tiny. I mentioned this issue about tiny. This is science, folks. This is not, you know, PFIS coming along. This is an opinion. It's good science to say you've got to be very careful with tiny spaces that people live in. If anybody ever wants to go and look at the research, Environmental Design Research Association has oodles of information on this subject. If you're sitting outside, you have big spaces, great. In urban areas, and you get small, there's a psychological problem. If you don't believe me, read the science. Or what's sort of interesting to me is I also mentioned, and this is my preamble, because there's a lot of science behind this thing. It might be style, it might be, you know, cool design, but there's really a lot of background to what it is that's going on here. So in the case of, you know, what was it? Do your insulation outside your mass. And so people look at me and says, what does that mean exactly? So if I have an adobe structure, I'm insulating in the outside of it. Now, very often, in many, many environments, in the United States, it pays to insulate on the outside of anything that's massive. Even to the point of CLT, the massive wood, sort of plywood on steroids, insulated on the outside. I don't only know one person doing this, and he happens to be in Austin, Texas, and he was the person that did the first passive house. So if you want data on that, there's a lot of data. Is it difficult to do? Once you change your mind, you get out of the Easter Island scenario of being, and you say, you know, it's not that difficult to think that way. And you can do it. So this background is very important, of science is important. So I'm going to go and look at balance first. And this issue of balance is sort of dear to me. Oh, sorry, history. So there's our very sophisticated lab, upper left, shack, 600 feet from here. So it's interesting who's there. The guy in the red hair, which you might be able to see, sort of the second one over from your left, Ken Smith, ended up to be the main person working for Jerry Brown at the Appropriate Technology Office in California. So there were interesting people. So if you look at the middle photograph, the guy without the shirt on, next to me, He defected from the University of Texas. He defected because he was working with Prigogine. Prigogine was a Nobel Prize winner, and he decided that Prigogine wasn't doing anything socially relevant enough. So he said, I'm going to work with you guys. He became a Dempsey dumpster diver. We had no money to pay him. He was a light physicist. We soon got him involved in lots of solar work in South Texas and beyond. Anyway, so there's a story behind every photograph. The guy that's almost on the top of the lower, your left, did a lot of work for Bill McDonough. He was a wonderful illustrator and did much of his work related to community design work. Anyway, so we have this experience behind us, totally different environments. So this is State Demonstration Farm, Caliche Building, done for neglected and abused children, place in the Baja, the Advanced Green Builder Demonstration, the first California code-approved straw bale building in the lower left, all those things. So you learn by doing this. So it's not that we are sitting in our little hilltop and doing research and paper writing. We do a lot of paper writing, we do a lot of talks, but we also continually build things. And I continually have hands dirty to the point that my son the other day at dinner said, Dad, when are you ever going to clean your fingernails? So it all happens like that. We've done quite a lot of planning work in different places. We're doing a big, big planning project in Belize at the moment that hopefully is a model for the Green Climate Fund for the Caribbean. So we've done work in various environments with various people, various cultures. We live what we preach. This is our office. This is the Advanced Green Builder Demonstration for the state. There's 14 different walls in it. We know exactly which walls are doing what, which are disintegrating, which has too much moisture in it. A great talk today related to moisture. We see what's going on with the wastewater system. We see what's going on with our systems under the worst situations. 30 years drought, down to about that much. Change your ways. We also are very concerned about, even though it might be looked at as a science project, it also needs to attract people. So a lot of what we've done has been very published, and published in design journals, many different places. So we sort of say to attract people, they don't care about the science. To attract people, they say, we want to see something really beautiful that I say want to live there and be part of that. So it's interesting in this case, and I don't want to spend too much time on each one of these, but that break right in the middle of that light coming through, usually what you have in an earth wall, and by the way, these earth walls do not take any stabilization in them at all. So they're adobe related, but I can take those walls and I can plow them right back into the ground and I can grow food or grow whatever with them. As soon as you stabilize it, you have ruined the potential for the food. But usually with earth building, you have a solid concrete beam going around at that point. That solid concrete beam all of a sudden ruins the daylighting in that building. So we decided to use our 98% recycled rebar to make a continuous window at that point and break that wall and bring in an even light from the very top and on the sides. And so we have a very good daylighting part of the whole way that building works. Flexibility is very important. I mean, this building here, everything that we can do to make it flexible. I can take any of those walls out. I can change walls. The inside has many flexible things going on, from the kitchens to partitions to desks to pin-up boards to whatever. But here too, a farm has to be, responsive. It has to respond to the fact that farmers can get into a rut. You get into a rut, you plant certain kinds of things too often, you fail once, you fail twice, 3 times, you're probably gone. So a flexible farm to us is a really important thing to work with farmers. And also the culture of ranching and farming. And does, an overeducated person in Austin come down there, can they be relevant? The first relevant part are 2 things. 1, use drilling stem recycled to build a farm. whoa, this guy has some coolness about him. I'm not quite sure the rest of them, but that's pretty cool. And then the straw that we used wasn't any straw at all. This was straw that we actually baled because it's buffalo grass. Buffalo grass is a very invasive straw grass species in this part of the world. Go and take it and bale it, put it into the wall and sequester it. Get rid of it. So that was the second stage. These managers said, whoa, wow, we would love to be able to get rid of that stuff because it's taken over all our good grasses. And this crazy guy can bale it and make walls. But then, you know, I said, we're going to take fly ash cement and plaster this whole thing. What's fly ash cement? Oh, it comes from a coal-fired power plant. Who are you going to get to do this? Oh, we're going to get some swimming pool people. Now, if you thought I was on the edge of being put in the nut house, the swimming pool people coming along and spraying a straw wall with a cement that they'd never heard of before, that had the absolute possibility at any second to freeze solid into that machine for spraying, was a very difficult tightrope to be walking on. But that's what our role is, to understand those things. And in fact, now to not have anything to do with fly ash cement. Because it isn't until you're in China and you're realizing, wow, the Department of Energy brought you there because you know about fly ash cement. And you look hard in the faces of those Chinese, and you begin to realize, wow, the American is coming and giving us permission to burn more coal. And you say, holy shit. And you begin to shift. I got involved with George Swanson's stuff, magnesium oxide cement, and realizing, my goodness, the Chinese have a lot of magnesium oxide cement. Why aren't they doing that? The fact is that they are doing that. The fact is that they're doing that to such an extent, as you'll see some buildings in a moment, that are really phenomenal buildings that we all know about, that are prize-winning, beautiful buildings. So here's Lawrence Doxey in the hat. That's Dad. Recognize him? So the sun is back there. So here we are with the cisterns, ready to go. So you have a form for the cistern. So as you're going along with your fly ash cement, spraying the entire farm outside the straw, you're now going over the cistern formwork, collapsing the formwork, and all of a sudden you have all your cisterns. So very rapid, sensible way of building, but also very resource responsible. And then a lot of our work, you know, we don't do nearly enough good work as to tracking what happens. So it's very interesting. A guy comes into open house one day and says, "You're the guys." I say, "Oh, what do I do now? What failure have I created in the world now?" He says, No, it's good stuff. I said, "Well, who are you?" "Well, we're in the business of putting up all those parking shades all over the Southwest. And we got this idea from you at that, what is it, that demonstration farm? Is that what you call it?" "Yeah, that was it." "You got that idea. You know, someday, sir, I'm going to learn how to capitalize on some of this stuff. Stop this bullshit nonprofit." So anyway, there are thousands of those up. There are, thousands of our solar water heaters up in South Texas that are very inexpensive. We had, 6 factories developed without even me having to visit because it was so obvious and so straightforward to do it. So very early on, we were also very conscious of this thing about how do things relate to each other? How do things cycle? How did that farm work? How do I borrow from permaculture, from Zeri, from all the things that we know about in order to get those cells really connecting to each other to get a really productive farm? All the way to the point that one cell, as you'll see, well, I don't know where you wrote it. Well, maybe we'll see. Where we would release the insects into the whole shade area of the farm. And our relationship to the community and relationship to campus and all those kinds of things are really important to us. So universities put us in a difficult position. They say, we want you to do this. A&M was asked to leave the mall in 2002. There were never apparently so many phone calls to the president of Texas A&M campus until that moment of leaving the mall or being forced to leave the mall. So they came up as an entourage to the Center for Maximum Intelligent Building Systems, and I knew I had them in a particular spot. So I have kids that go to expensive colleges. Don't ever share this, by the way. So I said, what are you going to give me? And they said, what do you want? I said, I want everything. I want tenure, I want a good salary, I want a lab, I want a place to build. You're not going to borrow our place the way UT did. We're going to do this sensibly at A&M, and we're going to actually maybe produce these things in reality for sensible housing down the line. They said, you got it, whatever you want. And they got me. The only problem they did not share with me is how many speeding tickets I would get in the next 6 years. So every one of these projects has something special about it. The A&M project, several things that you'll see in a while, but in this particular case, we're very conscious of the cycles that people go through in their daily activities. Are they part of the water cycle? Are they part of the waste cycle? Are they part of understanding how the energy in this building works? And so we developed a whole icon system and a whole cycle system so that you could identify within the building, did I cover and do that today? We were trying to make a deal with Apple at the time for what we heard to be their new watch, so we could actually record it and say, yep, I did that part of the cycle today, and really get the building as an extension of the life of people, to the life of building, to the life of community, to the idea of actually being able to share this with others. These are the icons. The icons were organized into our way of thinking about balance, source, process, use, resource. We believe that that is the language of the future, this way of thinking about cycling, and this cycle way of doing things has many, many different ramifications. So the solar decathlon with UT was different. So in this case, we were very conscious of a design for disassembly. So can you take the building apart? Can you reuse it? Can you reconfigure it? Can the actual structural systems contain within it the wiring, the sewage, the water, the communications? And so was there a way of actually doing flexible buildings, but also what's called in Europe open buildings? Never, never embedding any single utility into the structure permanently at all. And you learn this stuff the hard way, because simultaneously as we were doing this, Gail was doing the so-called green specking of the U.S. Pentagon. Everybody realize that the Pentagon could talk green? It was difficult. But we did the green specking. So one of the things we began to realize, whoa, all this wiring embedded into that building, tearing the whole building half apart to get to what? The wiring. Tens of thousands of miles of wires. And some of this stuff is toxic. So you hit it with that plane. Luckily the plane hit the wedge that we had redone. That was the first wedge of all the wedges. So they didn't have the PVC and the coating of the wiring. So it's sort of a very interesting thing. The next round, you design the Pentagon so that you realize, can you take those things out in the future? Because never, in any one instance, are you coming up with the answer. You keep open, flexible, and working with the future. So we've done this in several different ways. I'm not going to go into it too much. I had a slide that I was going to show you, but I realized it's still in the cloud somewhere, and I didn't download it, but so be it. We also do competitions. We think that competitions are a good way of thinking about things in the future, things that we're not really able to grasp yet. So in this case, this was a city from Morocco. So we're on CNN with some of the work that we do, and the CNN, apparently several million people saw this thing. And so I didn't know who to get back to, and I looked at this list, and I realized, Morocco, never been there. Let's try that one out. So I called them back. Every single thing that I was saying to these guys, wow, you got caliche. Oh man, caliche, you got caliche everywhere. It's an arid country, sir. Do you have saline water? Oh, man, saline water, you get it? Saline water is the basis of our cement. Whoa, what cement's that? I won't get into it. What kind of agreement do we have here? So unfortunately, what is that strange thing that happened at the time? The revolution in those countries in the world was happening at the same time this was happening. So the king could not go this far. But what was happening here is rehabbing a mine, one of the largest surface mines in the world that supplies 45% of all our phosphate everywhere in the world. So here we took that mine, we said, we're going to whatever that word is. What's the word? Rehabilitate, thank you very much. The mine, and actually build a city in it. And then I said, you know, what would be phenomenal is I wonder if those Atlas Mountains have this thing called basalt. Oh yeah, it's full of basalt. So you mean to tell me I could actually make the, well, that's close. I could make the tents out of this stuff. So this is rock. So this does not deteriorate in the sun. And it lasts. And it's 30,000 psi in tension. So here we could make tents in this situation that would really substantially last and whatever. So it began to come together. So in this case, the circles below are really, again, balancing. So we begin to say you balance at the house first. Whatever you can't balance there, go to the next level. You can't balance there, go to the next level. So the outer level is that particular topic. So the outer level says, take care of what you can within that whole community itself. And if you're really good at it, you can call yourself plenitude. So what does the word plenitude mean? Plenitude means that you're actually producing more than what you need. Produce more than what you need, you first have to cycle and balance what you have. And do that well enough that it becomes regenerative. In this case, it was sort of interesting because Katrina hit, Galveston got hit as usual again. One of the reasons I'm in Texas is that the firm that I was working with in Philadelphia did the Woodlands. The plant was the Mitchells. The Mitchells, as you know, own most of Galveston. We got together a little bit again later on, and we began to realize, wow, we can do something possibly pretty interesting about building a city over a city. Now, Galveston is going to disappear, but those structures and the beauty of what went on there is going to become an artifact for the future. To go down in the water and maybe see, but not to go and fight the sea. You're not going to win fighting the sea. So you build up and over, and you build up and over with very sophisticated systems that say, plug and play, in and out, many options to live in. Not a mega structure that is all solid concrete and nothing changes, but a way of actually enabling people to find themselves within this. So this was a major effort by us to look at big systems in a flexible way that got into that way of thinking. So this is obviously only a model. Unfortunately, George Mitchell, I think, earned about $5 billion 2 weeks after I tried to give my argument to do this stuff, and I didn't convince him. It was a bit old, and I didn't connect that day. If I connected, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't be talking to you. Okay, equal balance. So you already know about balance. I've already presented balance, but I'm going to go over it again. I'm going to go over it this way. How many professions around us balance? Everybody balances. The only people that don't balance is in the design process. Air balance, water balance, food balance, material balance. So it's very interesting that here we deal with all these professions almost every day, but we don't have the same kind of language that relates to their language. Maybe if we hire the engineer, they do an energy balance, whatever, on our building. Oh, that's one little area. Oh, we had a garden outside, and we have a little percentage of what we're doing related to food. Oh, there's a little bit of balance there. But we certainly don't look at balance as the big overarching way of thinking. So here's a very sophisticated balance. So I was working with kids at the campfire, kids in Texas, and Richard's old campfire place in Waco, Texas. And Waco is weird, I'll have to say that. But when they met me, they saw this guy, and I said, you know, this is a new Leonardo figure. A new Leonardo figure. Who's Leonardo? So, yeah, well, forget the Leonardo part. This is my recycle life food guide. You know, import, process, circulate, all the things that are part of the life cycle. And out the other end, the defecation goes into the compost privet. But not only are we thinking about that scale, we're thinking about all scales. But that scale of the human fits in that dining area, and the dining area is part of a community that also has eco-balanced way of thinking, or the town center, etc. So the design process was based on that. So if you got a little bit more sophisticated, you began to say, all right, let us actually track things. Let's go around this circle or around the square, whichever you like. Let's develop an iconography. Let's go through the scales from country all the way to human. Is it possible? So we also try to get cities in between. You know, here's our effort with doing the eco-district card for the city of Austin for an effort to try to convert that into understanding how balance could happen, and those stacks, there happen to be 5. We happen to deal with 5 areas of balance. Could the stacks actually be colored according to how much balance is going on within the boundary of what that eco-district is? Fortunately, it didn't go anywhere. This is a building where we do the same. We look at each section of the building. We build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, until you get to the point of balance. And can you do that within the boundaries of whatever? Can you do the same thing in planning? So I was taught conservation planning. Ian McCarty. You know, don't talk, conserve, conserve, conserve. And so pretty soon you say, you are going to be touching, so why don't you admit it? So why don't you begin to incorporate those things within your planning and overlaying process? So we actually started doing our overlay land planning process with eco-balanced ways of operating. What's the source of water? Where's the processing going to happen? Where's the use going to happen? Where's the resourcing going to happen? All of those have land use ways of doing things related to suitability, same kind of thing as ecological land planning does, but shifting how and why you're doing it, looking at one level up. So each one of these are a seminar, I hate to tell you, and I'm just going to go flying through this, and I'm sorry that this is sort of blink, blink, but